going in with a bunch of crazed dogs.
My camera. How about them Giants? How about them Giants? How about them Giants?
Giants fans, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Draft Talk. We have a very important episode tonight because we're talking about not only a giant need for the Giants, but we're talking about a position group that is rich in talent throughout the entire draft. There's probably going to be 20-plus guys that might actually be starter caliber going in this one. So pay close attention because on day two, now that we have several picks, Giants are looking at probably lining up a defensive tackle in one of those positions. And a lot of the guys that are going to be picked around then are worth taking at that point. So this is a pretty important episode. We've been waiting for a long time to talk about this. Joining us tonight is Mark Thompson. If you don't follow him on Twitter, please do. His takes are phenomenal. His views, everything like that. When you hear him break down the defensive tackles, you'll obviously see why he is a special guest to the show. But first and foremost, let's bring in the partner in crime, Truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Truth, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Spartan?
This is the best group in the entire draft, isn't it?
Yeah. This is one that I've been salivating over. Going over, looking at all the videos and look at some of these players. There's got to be one of the guys we talk about today is going to be a New York Giant on day two. That's my call for right now.
Yeah. I would bet a lot of money that you're going to be right. I think we're walking away with one of these dudes. You know, are we getting Mason Graham? I couldn't see it, but as you start going down the list, there's a Giant on this list. I have no doubt about it. Second of all, let's bring in our special guest, Mark. Mark, welcome back to the show, man.
Hi guys. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Mark, can you tell everybody where you're joining us from so you can make us all jealous?
I'm joining you from Barbados, of course. Where else?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful this time of year. While everybody in the Northeast is generally scrambling to try to take an expensive flight down to the Caribbean and get a vacation, Mark, you live right there on the beachfront, if I'm not mistaken.
I do live on the beach, yeah.
Mark, why don't we start? How did you become a Giants fan? I kind of like when you tell the story. You've told it to me before, but I want the viewers to know because it's a pretty interesting one.
Well, okay, so I kind of got interested in American football. Well, that's what we call it, right? American football back in like the early 80s. And I kind of came to it with Joe Montana, at the height of his prowess and so forth. And then Dan Marino going to the Super Bowl in his rookie season. And then I came to New York to study architecture. And when I came, I probably arrived at the right time, 1984. And I sort of just became I like the game. I wanted to understand the game a little bit more. And I'm in New York, so hey, I guess became a New York Giants fan, and that's basically how it started. And it's nothing's turned back since then. I was lucky enough. Within the next year and a half, we were, but next 2 years, we were Super Bowl champions.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's it. Great year to come and become a Giants fan. But it's an awesome story, and we love that Giants Nation is repping everywhere. Actually, none of us three are in the New York area. Not a single one of us. So to know that Giants fans are repping in Barbados or wherever people are tuning in from, obviously to us from Italy, love to hear it. But
yep, there you go.
Amen. But Mark, we bring you on here because you do have great breakdowns of the players. So we always look forward to having you on. And obviously want to have you for the most important one because I think this is the most talented group in the draft.
It is very, very deep in the tackle class. So I heard in the introduction, you betting money that we'll get someone on day two. I heard Truth say that definitely we'll get a D tackle on day two. I think especially with the compensatory pick, that sort of like is probably going to make it happen. I mean, it can't. I mean, at that point in the draft, this is the deep part of it. I mean, besides the tackle, there's running backs that'll probably be deep, but maybe a little tight end. But to me, it's sort of like, and then our needs. So needs meets strength in the draft. I think likely that the tackle is coming on day 2.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up because a lot, obviously a lot of fans don't want to draft by need, and I understand that. But if you draft a lot of these guys that are projected to go in the 3rd round, you're not going by need. You are still going by best player available because the defensive tackle room is just that talented. Unless other slips all over the place. But, somebody said, and I don't remember who, one of the sports analysts said that there's probably 24 starter caliber defensive tackles in the draft. And we're not going over 24 dudes tonight. We're obviously going to bring up our honorable mentions at the end. But that just shows how rich this class is, which is very unique.
Oh, very rich. I mean, this is, I think, for sure, it would over 5% of it could be as much as 10% of the draft picks are defensive tackle, in my opinion.
That would be incredible.
I think that's entirely possible.
Well, let's get right into it. And, again, we're going to start right from the top. We're going to go with the blue chip defensive tackle, Mason Graham out of Michigan. This dude, I mean, just quick high level, like he was the pinnacle of the defense, along with Will Johnson for University of Michigan this past year. They had a huge setback as a team. They were national champions. They had a disappointing year, to say the least. Wink Martindale was the defensive coordinator, but there were a lot of bright spots on the defense still. And Mason Graham was kind of the anchor of that team, and he was also one of the few starters that remained from the 2023 national championship team. Projected to be very high, even a top 5 pick, right? So we're talking about one of the very blue chip player. I want to hear from you first, Truth. What are your thoughts about Mason Graham, and what makes this dude a top 5 pick?
Well, before I do start with Mason Graham, I want to say that for everyone listening, you're going to hear a lot of familiar terms. We're going to talk about versatility. We're going to talk about quick off the snap. We're going to talk about endless motor. A lot of these guys have that. So when you hear Spartan, myself, and Mark talk, we're all going to probably be saying about each and every one of these guys, especially in the top tier that we're going to talk about. Now, Mason Graham, he was a 320 pound. He played a lot during the year, but he actually lost weight for the combine deliberately. So now he's down to 300, and he wants to play that kind of weight. He wants to play a little bit lighter to be quicker off the ball. And he is a day 1 starter, in my opinion. And he did say, Spartan, that he could be a top 5 pick. Yeah, he can be. Absolutely. Wouldn't shock me if New England or even Carolina pick him at 4 or 5. And he's very explosive first step. You're going to hear that often. He's nasty. He finishes his tackles. He doesn't give up on plays. He pursues well. He does everything you like. Check all the boxes that a defensive coordinator loves to have in his defensive lineman, and he's obviously very, very stingy against the run.
What about you, Mark? What are your thoughts on the player?
Well, I mean, Truth said it there. I mean, I would say that the one box he doesn't tick off is that he has short arms. That's probably the one box he doesn't tick off, but his technique is so good. He's just smooth. He's really good. And but he is very violent. His motor is relentless. And he's fast. He has an explosive step. That's for sure. I mean, he's what, 6'4", 300 pounds or thereabouts. He was probably 320, as you said before. Now he's 300 pounds. So I mean, he during his 2024 year at Michigan, he had 548 snaps. 338 of those were pass rush. 210 was run defense. He had 5 sacks. He had 20 hurries and 9 hits. So I mean, those are pretty good numbers for the tackle, right? And he mostly lined up in the B gap. So he's mostly lined up in the B gap. So I mean, he's all. I think he's that and all that. So he's going to make somebody happy.
Oh yeah, the Giants have been very bad against the run in the last several years. Very bad, 130 plus yards a game they're giving up. You put a guy like this next to Dexter Lawrence, if that was the option Joe Shane wants to take, that would probably cure their run defense overnight.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. That'd be yeah.
Look, I
Welcome
think,
addition.
but we might as well ask this. What if the Giants took it? Like, what do you think the odds are the Giants take him? I mean, I think it's low because of the quarterback need. I think other guys are going to be there at 3. I wouldn't. I'll tell you what. I wouldn't hate it if that's what they ended up doing because they get something figured out, a quarterback or what. And I am Mr. Draft a quarterback. Trust me, I am. But like, I really wouldn't mind this dude being on the team. I think him and Dex next to each other would feed families.
Yeah, Mark, comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, I guess everything would have to sort of like fall in place, right? Like you didn't get you either didn't get or didn't think that Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, or at least what Cam Ward, or Cam Ward you might think Cam Ward, you may not think Shadur Sanders, and then Carter and Hunter went off the board. That's possible. I mean, you could get Cam Ward, Carter, Hunter off the board, and you say, well, let me go with Mason Graham. That's entirely possible. It could happen. And you could decide that later on, you're going to pick up a QB later on. That's assuming, of course, that you pick up who you want in free agency QB-wise.
Yeah. And we don't know. We don't know, who Joe Shane likes on his board. Every NFL team has their board. And it doesn't necessarily look like a board that we would see on some websites when we have mock drafts and all these other experts. We have no clue. And like Mark says, scenario, it has to be the perfect storm, right? It has to fall just in a way where they say, gee, man, look at this. Mason Graham's right there. And our first 2 options are off the board. You know what? Let's go for it. It could happen, yes. I don't think it's a high probability, but it has to be considered.
Tell you what, if they had the 5th pick, it'd be a different story. I can guarantee you that. Like if they were any lower and their quarterback situation was addressed, we'd be looking at a different circumstance for sure. Now, I truly think the Giants, based on where they're at right now and based on the obvious issue at hand as to why we're a 3-14 team, I expect him to take a quarterback. And if they're not there, I expect him to take Abdul Carter. That is the anticipation.
That would be the higher probability.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. That is what I would willingly bet my money on. But who knows? I mean, you never know if some flaw comes out about a player. You never know, right? But again, if the Giants had the 5th pick, it'd be Mason Graham. I could see it. So. Why don't we move on then? And Mark, this, we'll start with you. Walter Nolan's another dude that's right up there, Ole Miss, right? If this is a dude that slips to like pick 22, he's going to be one of the generally few guys around that area that's going to probably be a Pro Bowl caliber player. He's still excellent. He's not Mason Graham. There's some things missing about his game. But let's start with you. Tell us about him.
Yeah, I mean, this is another guy who has a very, very quick first step. Means what? Again, he's 6'3", 6'4", between I've seen some 296 pounds, I've seen some 305 pounds, but he's around 300 pounds, basically. He's definitely a day one starter. I mean, this is another day one starter we're talking about. Great leverage, explosive first step off a snap, as we said. Lateral movement, strong against the run. He does tend to over pursue sometimes, but definitely strong against the run. So he's not the greatest in terms of pass rushing, but his strength is against the run. I mean, he had like 587 snaps in his college year, 362 pass rush, the breakdown, and 224 run defense. And that resulted in 6 sacks, 4 hits, 25 hurries. So even though he said he's not great against the pass rush, those aren't bad numbers, right? But I think it's only because of his over pursuit that's why he's not great against the pass rush. You know what I mean? So if he's a little bit more diligent in his technique and his timing, and so I think he'll be fine. Again, he tends to line up like Mason Graham. He lines up mostly lined on the big gap, but some over tackle as well, but mostly in the big gap.
Mostly big gap. What about you, Truth? What are your thoughts on him?
Well, check all the boxes that Mark just covered. He covered like everything on me. This guy, he needs to, we talk about his over pursuit. I think that will be corrected when he gets the proper schooling and when he gets the NFL. He'll learn how to break down and not over pursuit, and he'll be able to read better when he does game films. I think that's not going to be an issue for him. This guy is every bit. You don't hear about him. He played on a very, very impressive defensive line in Ole Miss. They have 4 guys who are going to get drafted. Probably by after round 3. They'll all be gone off the board. It's a good chance. So he came from a good team that was pretty nasty with that front 4. And I think this kid, like Mark says, he's a day 1 starter. I have him projected top 20. Yeah, he could slide outside of that. Yeah, he could, or he can get picked before 20, inside like 15 to 20. So it all depends who's looking at that time, who might want to take a chance on him in the first round. But he's a good player.
I mean, if he really goes in the 20s, he's looking at possibly going to a team that's already pretty well established. Like, my fear actually becomes, does he go to Washington or could he go to Philadelphia?
I don't think he'll last that long. 29 to 32. I don't think he'll last that long. Anything can happen, of course, but I don't think he will. I think he's a good team.
Mark, tell me he's not going to Washington or Philadelphia.
He's not going to Washington or Philadelphia. There you go.
There you go, Mark.
Thank you,
guys. Mark has clarified it.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, we can't be too worried. We got to, so far in free agency, we got to take some swings if we're going to have to make that jump. So we'll see if these swings will work.
Yeah. And again, I can't draft by need. We kind of do need a DT because I'm not confident the other guys will hold down the fort. But we can move on and save that discussion for the end. So this is what's pretty interesting, Mark. I mean, every year we seem to, and I'll hand off the Truth because we got to do the order that I aligned. Yes. But think what's interesting here is we do seem to get a lot of schools that show up twice on the list for the same position group.
Yep.
Always makes things very interesting, right? Texas receivers, Texas A&M defensive edges, so, and this is another example of it. So possibly the third tackle that's going to be taken is another player from Michigan. So, Truth, let's just ask, everyone give your thoughts, but then I got another important question to ask at the very end of this segment. I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, well, Kenneth Grant, kind of played in the shadows of Mason Graham, even though we do know him and know his abilities. I look at this guy, and me, Spartan. I like when these guys make the freak list, and Kenneth Grant did. He was number 46 on the freak list, and that was based on his power in the weight room. The numbers he put up, and that doesn't always translate as a football player, but it's still something to take note of. He's not a pass rusher, but he does a good job collapsing the pocket. And again, just like Graham, he's very tenacious, endless motor, and he's got heavy hands, and he's a stout against the run. Only thing I've read about him is that they did an issue sometimes with his weight, that he could put too much weight on. So that.
What do they mean he can put too much weight on? Did he get did he come in heavy at training camp one of those times?
Well, they said that the article I read, they said that there was once off season that he put a little too much weight on, and he had to go extensive training to get that weight off. The coaches weren't happy with him. But I don't think that's a big deal because he put it all together. He had a good season this year. To be mentioned as a number 3 on the board here of a very deep defensive tackle group. So another kid I got going somewhere in the mid to late first round. So we'll see what happens. But he'll be a good team that's looking to solidify their run defense.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? Yeah, real quick on the weight thing. That's interesting. I mean, I always think back to Jamarcus Russell. He had that issue coming into the Raiders, which was concerning, but that was way overboard. But it happens. He went through it. He did the training to burn it off. That's an interesting issue that I haven't heard of before, like in a long time. That's a very rare one.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a big deal though. I think he's fine.
No, the Giants nutritionist, by the way, is going to put them on like the training programs and whatnot. And sounds like he's a motivated player. I mean, again, another stud that came out of Michigan's defense. It's not easy to start there, so he had to come around. But Mark, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, there have been some discussions that some people think that he has a higher upside than Mason Graham. I'm not so sure of that, but I've heard people say that that he may have a higher ceiling than Mason Graham. Don't know, but certainly he's definitely more of a nose tackle. He lines up both the B and A gap. That's pretty much it. He's much more of a nose tackle than he is like a three technique or anything like that. So he's going to make somebody happy because he does have fast rush ability. He hasn't turned into a ton of sacks. I mean, he's had 3 sacks since last year, 1 hit, but 23 hurries. So you never know. That can turn into more production at the NFL level with the right coaching. So he's a big guy. He's 315, 20 pounds, so thereabouts. He's pretty big. I even see one thing where he says he's 339 pounds. So who knows?
Yeah.
So who knows, right? But he's a big guy, 6'3", 6'4". And he's a great prospect. I don't expect him to last very long. I expect him to not get past maybe 15 or 16 in the draft.
Do you have him higher than Nolan?
Yes, I do.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
I do.
I think I do have curiosity because most sites will have him ranked, but that doesn't mean obviously like things will come out of order as time goes on. Is the order of success in the NFL career is not going to match this list. So I am curious to hear that if you have an inclination that's going to be the case.
No, I just think that the movement on the D tackle is okay. What's the quickest path to the quarterback? So the movement now in terms of how you're planning to form your defensive tackle line, your D line, is that the nose tackle has the quickest path to the quarterback. And if you've got one really strong guy, surrounded by the right kind of guys, I mean, look at Dexter Lawrence. Nobody foresaw, maybe somebody did, foresaw how he could be in this, in his NFL career. I mean, you have to give him some credit. But I mean, we saw, okay, he'd be a really good nose tackle, great. But look, he's more than that. He's getting to the quarterback and making sacks because he's just an extraordinary athlete. 6'4", 346 pounds. He's extraordinary. So this guy is kind of along those kind of lines, in my opinion. Maybe someone may see it and say, hey, maybe he's our next Dexter Lawrence. Sure. I don't know. So that's why I don't know he's better than Mason Graham, but I do think he has a high ceiling, a higher ceiling than what you see in college. That's what I think.
No, I respect it. Well, let's move on then. And Mark, it's actually gonna go right back to you. I mean, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. So the one thing I know just watching this guy that I absolutely love is how good he's able to move from side to side. That's a really important asset to a defensive tackle. We'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he is more of a 3 technique guy, but probably more in a 4-3 as opposed to a 3-4.
He's more of a 4-3 dude.
I think so. Yeah, I think more of a 4-3 guy. I mean, he lines up B gap over the tackle. He but he's a good run stuffer, effective pass rusher. And he's got about his I'm looking at my notes here, 5 sacks, 7 hits, 43 hurries in his last college year, 2024. So quite a good, I think quite a good guy to pick up. Again, I do think that he will go round 1. I think so. I'm not sure what you guys think, but I think so. And but I don't think I don't see him fit in the Giants per se.
Yeah, because
But
he's a 4-3 dude. That doesn't translate. That is a tough thing to overcome. It is.
Yeah, I don't see him fit, but I do. But he's a good player. He's an excellent player. So someone will definitely pick him up early, I think.
What are your thoughts, Truth?
Yeah, I mean, I see him definitely getting picked in the first round. If he slips in the second round, someone's going to get a good player. Everything Mark says is pretty good. Run stuffer, like he said, effective pass rusher. He's a nasty guy. Nasty demeanor, plays mean, plays angry. I like that. I watched the game Oregon against the first one, Oregon against Ohio State, the first game
when they won. Yeah.
Yeah, when it was a nail biter, and he played lights out. He was finishing his tackles. He was driving the guy to the ground. I like watching when you make a tackle. You just don't tackle. You drive him to the ground. I like players who do that. They play mean, and that's what this guy does. Mark said it. I know he's more aligned to a 4-3 scheme, and it may not suit well for the Giants, like he says. But he's a heck of a player. Good mobility. Good player. Someone's going to get a good player, and I'd be shocked if he falls out of the first round. Put it that way.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, talented player. 4-3 defense a little concerning. I will miss that lateral movement though, but there's other dudes in the draft worth talking about that have it. So
oh yeah, they're coming up.
They're coming up. Back to you, Truth. Back to you, Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, another defender from Ohio State. They've been minting several that we've talked about already this past year. No surprise with the national championship football team. We're still talking about a dude that might be round one, right? I mean, we're still there. So tell me about him.
Yeah, he could be. He could be end of round one, or maybe grace of God falls in the second round to us. This kid is a big boy, right? And he actually had his best unofficial 40-yard dash was a 4.68 for a 330-pound man. He can play anywhere. He's versatile. He can play along the defensive line. And like a lot of these guys, he is a very good run stuffer. And I look at the Ohio State, how they played their defense, and I can definitely see this kid playing on the end alongside Dexter Lawrence, and on the other side of him, Brian Burns. I mean, that would be a nice little combination to have him there. This kid, and I think he could be there for the Giants at pick 34.
What about you, Mark? Were you a fan of this guy as well?
Yeah, I think he could be. And I think it's possible he could drop to the second round. I think that's very doable. Drop for the second round. I listened to what Truth had to say there in terms of the versatility and playing. He doesn't line up over the big gap. He does line up over tackle. Those are the ways. So I would say, even though I see in some places some people say that he's probably more of a nose tackle, but I'm not sure that I agree with that. I do agree with Truth about his lateral mobility, as well as his get off, his speed. He's very quick, and I do think that he has more versatility than some quarters that are talking about him. He's a big guy too. 6'3", 327 pounds, 330 pounds. He did do the 40 and 4.68. That's pretty darn good.
That's really good.
Size, right? That's pretty good. I find those 40 times I find them more interesting for the big guys than it is for the corners and the receivers.
Yeah.
I kind of but these guys, when they move like that, and especially the 10-yard time, that shows how quickly they get off and how fast they are off the snap. He hasn't. It's a projection with his pass rush. He's had like 3 sacks in his final year. 1 hit, 16 hurries. Okay, just reasonable. But it's a projection. I think, but I do think he has the ability to definitely be versatile along that line. I do think so.
Yeah. The only little concern that I have is we're talking about another 4-3 defender, and Ohio State, that is like tradition 4-3. Like everybody fits the mold of that 4-3, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a little bit of another transition. But like I'm sure this has happened before, and I would love, maybe I'm unprepared, but I would love to go back in a list of dudes who did successfully transition from different defensive fronts in college. I'd love to know.
Well, both of the Bosses did a good job, right?
Are they both in 3-4 defenses?
I don't know. I don't know when he first came up. It's Joey Bosa with San Diego. Was that 3-4 or were they at 4-3?
They may have been 3-4, but 49ers are definitely 4-3. I know.
Yep, they are. 49ers are.
And Harbaugh, I got to think about this. I feel like, well, it's not his defense, so I'm not sure. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I think I would think it's easier to transition if you're the inside interior rusher as opposed to outside linebacker / defensive end. I think it's easier to transition because the hand in the dirt versus standing up. But if you're an interior pass rusher, your hand is in the dirt anyway. Yeah. And I think you can move along the line a little better. So I think that transition is much easier.
You're right. It's about the gap, but we saw with Dexter Lawrence though how important what gap you're lining up on is to your game. But I guess ultimately in a 3-4 versus 4-3, you can still shuffle around, and you might be in a 33 anyway on a fourth situation.
I think it's harder for like a nose tackle guy to try to make the transition because of. But I do think it's easier to transition. Yeah.
So here's another school that's been coming up really the last couple of years. This is the second Toledo guy that we've talked about this year alone. And we also, obviously Quinion Mitchell came up last year. It's just interesting to know what Jason Candle's doing over there. I think it's a very interesting small school that's been springing up in decency in football lately. So Darius Alexander, obviously he's going to one of the smaller programs, never transferred out, anything like that. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, and I want to hear if you guys think that he can translate well to the NFL level, despite the school and what he's going to have to battle against. So, Mark, we'll start with you.
Yeah, that's he's the perfect player to come up because we were just talking about that transition where you can move from 4-3 to 3-4. And this guy specifically. I think he's pretty flexible. I think he's 3-4 or 4-3. He's got good measurables. He's an older prospect at 25, by the way. He's pretty. He's not a young guy, but I think this guy has flexibility. He can do 3-4 or 4-3. He's always his motor is up. He's relentless from that perspective. He's got 4 sacks, 8 hits, 25 hurries. He's a B gap guy most of the time. So I like Darius Alexander. Actually, I like him quite a bit. So I wouldn't mind if the Giants went for him. But I like him quite a bit.
And what are your thoughts on Truth?
Well, he had a really good senior week, and that's where eyes opened up with him during the senior.
Probably shot up the list because of that senior league.
Oh yeah. And I'm hearing nothing but good things about him even now when I look at his reports and I catch some reports scouts talking about him. I even saw some mock drafts have him going late in the first round, which I don't think he will. But what do I know? And I know Spud, you're not going to like to hear this. I saw a lot of them had him going to the Eagles at 32. So.
They're not going to give up building that defensive line. It's a net-rending build.
Hey, they lost Milton, right? Williams.
They will replace him with a 6th-round pick that becomes an All-Pro.
Well, it might be a 2nd-round pick named Darius Alexander.
Oh, good. So let's talk about this future Philadelphia Eagle then.
But everything Mark said, I like this kid a lot. And like I said earlier, you're going to hear all these over and over again: endless motor, versatile. And that's what this guy is. He's a strong kid. He pursues well. He's got that nice blend of mass and mobility. He's thick in the legs, and he doesn't give up. He's good lateral movement along the line. What's not to like about him? And I got him right now going early to mid-second round, but who knows where he goes. It could be somebody looking at him late in the first round and say, you know what? I don't think he'll be there next time our turn comes. Let's go get him now. So like I said, it could be a team like Kansas City or the Eagles that might pick him up.
Yeah, I think it's very possible with him, given his measurables and how he performed during senior week and all that. I think he's got some really good traits and some good flexibility. And I think that in itself is probably going to lead people to maybe draft him a little earlier than you might think he might be drafted. He's a good prospect. I think he could go before Williams. I think it's entirely possible.
Absolutely.
Senior week is forward, just to choose these guys right up in the rankings.
I love the senior week because it gets guys from Toledo to show that they can play with the big boys, like the other kid from North Dakota State, Gray. What's his name? Zabel. What's his name? The offensive lineman. Zabel, right? Gray Zabel.
Oh, Gray Zabel, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look how he was the best lineman during the week, and and people were before that was questioned, can he play with the elite level, and he sure did.
He sure did.
Mm-hmm. He did. Which also, I mean, that didn't bring him from that brought him from the third round to possibly back into the first. I mean, it was crazy.
That's
how
right.
It was.
And he did pretty well in the combine too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't disappoint anybody.
Moving on to another program, though, that's been minting a lot of players that we've gone over in the draft. So Alfred Collins out of Texas. Truth, we'll start with you. What's the evaluation on him?
Well, he's a beast. He's a big man, 6'6", 330 plus. Kind of a nose tackle. So I don't know if there's a fit there with the Giants if they would do this with what's available out there. But again, he's got long arms, which I was shocked, 35 to almost 36 inches long. So that helps him, not to get tangled by the offensive lineman. You can keep the separation. And he's usually in the defense for Texas, he was responsible for 2 gaps. That was his assignment. The gaps on each side of him, that was his responsibility. He's not going to be
able to cover it.
Yeah, he was able to handle it. He's not going to be a pass rusher, so get that out of your mind. He's not going to do that. He will be a run stuffer. He will collapse the pocket. He will occupy double teams a lot of times, which is what you want to have when you have your.
I'm completely cool with having one D tackle that takes care of the run and one that's an additional pass rusher. Quite frankly.
Okay, well, yeah, you got one like this. This guy is a good player. I got him going. Mid to late second round. That's what I got him going.
Okay. Mark, what are your thoughts? You're allowed to hard disagree. If you want to come in here, Mark, and just be like, Truth, I don't know what the F you're talking about.
Mark's a nice guy. He won't do that. Even though he probably thinks it. He won't do it.
I think.
But you can, Mark. It's all right.
Yes.
Are you sure? You want me to do it? No.
Go ahead.
No, in all seriousness, I think though, I mean, I heard you say that he's probably more of a nose tackle for you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I saw. That he played a lot more snaps than no.
Yeah, but he's lined up all over the line, B gap, A gap tackle. I think he's sort of he can play all across the line to me, like 0 to 5 technique. That is, at least I think so.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's what I think. But But I do understand the part about the pass rush and why you're saying that. I think though that again, that's a technique thing. I think he doesn't disengage quickly. So and maybe that's part of it. Maybe if that was to change and he recognizes the thing, and who knows, he might become a beast of a pass rusher. But it's not there right now. So right. I agree with you. But run stuff in, yeah. I do think, but I do think he has a little more flexibility than just the nose. That's what I think.
Yeah, I just don't know if Mark. I just don't know at the NFL level he can play
Across the
effectively
line.
across the whole line. I think the
Yeah.
speed of the game might be a little too much for him.
Okay, that's possible. I mean, he's got long arms, so you never know. He's got those long 35-inch arms. He's a pretty big guy. He's 6'5", 6'6", 330 pounds or whatever it is. So no, 330 pounds. Yeah, right. So
Big
I mean, yeah, he's a big guy for sure. So that's So we'll see how he goes, but he's still going to be a high draft pick, though.
Yeah.
He'll be a high draft pick.
Well, what
He's
about
a day two guy for sure.
I'm going to hand this over to you, Mark, to start us off on TJ Sanders. And actually, truth, I get, even though we're starting with Mark, was he on the freak list? Because I'd be surprised if he wasn't.
In TJ Sanders, I'm not aware.
No, I don't think he is. I don't think he is.
Yeah, I wasn't.
He's a dynamic athlete, man. I love that he can kind of work it all. But go ahead, Mark, start us off.
Yeah. Okay. So, TJ Sanders, 6'4", 290 pounds, 95 pounds in that range. Not as heavy as some others. However, don't let that fool you. He can certainly pack a punch, right? He needs to improve his hand precision, though, in my opinion. But he's more of a three tech guy. He's got in his last year 468 snaps, 255 and pass rush, 212 run defense, and he's got 5 sacks, 9 hits, 19 hurries, and again mostly B gap. A lot of these guys are B gap, which I find interesting. And that's basically So he's a great athlete, as you said. Spartan, he's really a very good athlete, solid run defender.
Yeah. In truth, what are your thoughts on him?
Well, I like him, Spartan. I like him. I think Mark talked about his size, his height, weight, but he looks like I watched him play. It looks like he could put more meat on his body, and and it's not that he looks little, but he just moves like he's not a big man. He's got good mobility. He's got nice flex bend in his body. I liked it. The game I watched in particular was the game that South Carolina was it Clemson they were playing? Was that game where they came back and won? Is that the game I'm thinking of where Sellers did a great job and won the game for them? I'm trying to remember.
That's one of them. I don't know how big of I didn't know if it was a comeback, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. It was one game he played so well, not only him, but the whole defensive line for South Carolina, because they do have a couple of good, talented guys on that side of the ball. And I could definitely see this guy, be like Mark says, a 3-tech on the outside. He's got some pass rushing moves. He can stop the run. He's a good run defender. I think his measurements, his body will transition well at the NFL level. I think he's going to be a good NFL pro.
Yep. 3-tech for sure. 3-tech guy, definitely.
All right, we got a big man to talk about. This dude is a freaking mammoth. I mean, really the size of an offensive tackle. But he's also dynamic too, right? And this is when we get things get interesting. Like if we get him in the 3rd round, it's like, oh man, we scored. Deion Walker out of Kentucky. Truth, give us your take on the big man right here. Because I think of that. I think of the defensive tackle for the Eagles, like when I see 6'7" defensive tackle, and both of you, let us know if you would fit with the Giants in their situation.
Well, I mean, I looked at his stat lines, and I looked at his bio, and I watched some game film. I could have sworn I thought I read is he only 20 years old? Am I incorrect or am I correct on that?
Yeah, I think you're correct on that.
Okay, now Spartan mentioned this guy's a monster. He's 6'7", 330 plus, and he's probably got to keep an eye on his weight. He could probably be way heavier than that if he enjoyed eating, right?
Yesterday was his birthday, in case you're wondering if he's 20. He's not. He's 21 years old.
Oh, forgive me. Okay.
He was
clear list on Sunday.
So he's a baby. He's only 21 years old. Here's a guy that he's a powerful man, mass mobility. He plays. He plays in a very very competitive conference. The SEC. He goes against some very competitive NFL caliber linemen. The only thing that bothers me about him, and it kind of like showed its ugly face in the senior week when he went against that gentleman from North Carolina, the 5'11" Lampton, I think his name is 5'11", 295 or 290. He got under him, so sometimes he tends to come up high off the snap, and he went against a 5'11" guy who was like a brick wall that he had a difficult time against. So he needs, with the right coaching, work on his technique, stay low. Even though he's a big man, he's got to stay lower. I think he's got to get more, believe it or not, more strength in his legs. Doesn't look like he's got big legs that matches his size. But if he does that with a little weight training, I think he'll be a good player. And I got him going, let's see. I got late second, early third. I can see that with him.
Yeah. I will say real quick to that point, like it is because this becomes like a leverage thing. And I'm sure in practice he's going against, the offensive line for the most part. But if they're not practicing the running back, like there is size, he should obviously just overpower them as we think. But like that's something that he's going to have to practice. And I'm confident he would. I wonder if he just wasn't really doing that at Kentucky that much,
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, he's a tall guy, so I mean, I guess he's got to, learn to deal with that. And he's 6'6", 6'7", depending on what you're looking at.
It could almost be a disadvantage sometimes with some of the leverage things.
That's right.
So I don't know if so it could be just a technique thing, but it could also be that he's not strong in the lower part of his body as well. I mean, it's a combination of both. So that could be it. But he does. He's very versatile, though. I mean, he's got he didn't have a lot of sacks in his final years. I think it's like 4 sacks. And just let me make sure I'm right. I'm talking off the top of my head. No hits, about 18 hurries. But he did line up, B gap, A gap, tackle, and but he definitely, but he had more sacks in 2023, by the way, just to make that quick point. So he had more sacks in 2023 than he had in 2024. So you never know. But I mean, he's versatile, good measurables. He got his technique right. He could be more than a two-down player.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the school that's been popping up on the list. We'll start with you, Mark. Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee.
Right. Okay. Well, as it says, let me start with the numbers: 6'3", 6'2", 290 to 315. I've seen variations of his weight in there.
We got 291, I believe.
Right, and I've seen some as far as 315. I kind of check a few different sources, and but anyway, in that range anyway, right? He doesn't have a lot of snaps though. He's 225 snaps. But in those 225 snaps, he had 5 sacks, he had 9 hits, he had 13 hurries. He lined up B gap and tackle. I don't know if I would say he's undersized, but he's not as big as some other guys. But he's a 3 technique guy in my opinion. I like his the body of work that I see there, and the production that he gave. I think that his projection is pretty high.
Yeah, like you said, Mark, he had limited snaps and stuff, but what he did in that body of work was pretty impressive. You already said the numbers. He's again I'm going to repeat myself. A relentless motor, shows spurts of dominance in those short time of 220 snaps. There were times where he played phenomenal. There was a report, and I tried to find out what it was, that he had discipline issues. And I couldn't find out. If you know what it is, I couldn't find out what it was. So I don't know if that's clean. If he cleaned that up or not, if that's behind him now. So that's. Do you know what it could have been, Mark?
No, I didn't go searching.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And
I
I hadn't really heard generally. Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
I can see this guy going in a late day 2. Could slip to early fourth round, depending on other positions. But he's a good player. Good rotational player he would be.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely versatile enough, and it has some good power. Very dominant in the run game. So I definitely is a good guy. I mean, look, this is like the 10th guy you're talking about, and we're still in day 2, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're still in day 2, and this is by the
we're
way.
still in day 2. We haven't hit day 3. We're still in day 2, and this is the 10th guy we're talking about.
Yeah, again, this all leads me to believe the Giants will probably walk away with one of these dudes.
Yeah, I think like the reality is that for these DTs are going to be so all over the place, depending on what team, based on team needs. Somebody who's going to be rated, number 5 in somebody's board in terms of the tackles, maybe rated number 10 on somebody else's board. So there's all sorts of flavors here for people. So that's why I lots of flavors here. So if you like chocolate, you're good. If you like vanilla, I think, it's there are choices here.
Yeah,
So
there are.
On to another choice, because again, we're still not really out of the realm of these dudes that could be going in the second round. Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. Maryland has brought the NFL some decent players as of late. Lockley, the head coach, he's done a good job with development. Obviously, we have their star cornerback, Deonte Banks, just doing God's work for us. What are your thoughts on Jordan Phillips? I forgot who has to go first.
It's me now. Here's another guy. Spartan made the freaks list. Another one based on his weight room prowess. Strong individual, both upper and lower body. I think he held or broke the record in Maryland for deadlifts and power cleans. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's what I read. Very explosive, again, off the snap, stays low, which I like, off the snap, and he has good mobility. So I wouldn't say he's going to be a pass rusher, but he's going to be a pretty decent interior lineman, defensive lineman. He's going to collapse the pocket. He's going to give you good reps, good snaps at the NFL level. Whoever takes him, and I got him going. Late 3, maybe early 4.
Okay.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, his name's been coming up quite a bit. I don't know, because I think there's a player now, right, called Jordan Phillips, that plays defensive tackle, right, in the NFL. Right?
Yeah, did the Giants have him with the Bills? Right?
Yeah, he was in the offseason. He was with the Giants for a little bit, and we traded him to Dallas or something like that. If I remember correctly.
It was Buffalo. Wasn't it Buffalo?
Oh, he was with Buffalo, but then he was in the offseason with us, and then we traded him to Dallas for a 7th round pick.
Is that right?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. That's why we got 2 7-round picks, I think. But yeah, I mean, 6'2", 6'3", 310, 320 pounds. I mean, that's that's where he's at. To me, I see him as a nose tackle, essentially. He's definitely not a pass rush guy. He is quick. He has good get off speed. Nice compact player. I mean, he doesn't have, like, even last year, he didn't record any sacks. He had 6 hits. He had 10 hurries. Again, A gap, B gap. Right, that nose tackle kind of position, and that's how I kind of see him. So again, he could be picked higher depending on the needs of some particular team. And I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. So if that's not a need for you, you'll probably have him down your draft board. But if it's a need for you, have him up. And and he's been popular. I mean, people, I think people been noticing him. Yeah. So I think he's a good guy.
So guys, we are getting a little tight with time here.
Okay.
Maybe we go over.
All right, pick it up.
Yeah. Let's do one at a time then. Let Mark do next one, then I'll do the next one. We want to do both at the same time. So
all right, sounds good. What do you got, Mark, for Joshua Farmer?
Right, Joshua Farmer. Okay. Explosive first step again. Another guy that does that. 6'3", 300 odd pounds, 310, whatever. 6 sacks, 3 hits, 17 hurries in his 2024 college season. B gapper again, mostly on the B gap alignment. Needs to improve his technique in general, though. He does have some pass rush moves, and but he's I would say that I said he's very quick, and he will over pursue, and but he does need to disengage quicker. Again, that comes back to what I said about improving his technique. So absolutely another good possibility there. I mean, everybody here now, I mean, when you start getting down into this round 3, round 4, they're not going to be the total polished situation. So somebody's going to have some warts, but but a lot of good stuff, but still a lot there to like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
All right, over to you, Truth. JJ Pay, pronounce his last name out of Ole Miss.
Pagos, something like that.
Bates, I think.
Yeah, here's one of the other guys that I talked about alone, knowing that from Ole Miss. They have such a great defensive line over there. This kid did well during the games playing. I don't know if he played in the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl. I don't know which one, but he had a fumble recovery, showed a lot of penetration, collapse in the pocket in that game. Stout kind of guy, 6'2", 309, around that area. And he displays a lot of lateral mobility, stays low to the ground, a good run defender, versatility, can play along the defensive line, not a pass rusher, so don't draft him to be a pass rusher because you're not going to get that. He's more of a run stuffer, versatility guy, and Ole Miss used him at times as a fullback in goal line situations. So
that'll satisfy
Craig.
Craig.
That's a fun little note right there.
Oh, Craig will be thrilled to hear that.
He would? He likes guys like that?
He misses fullbacks.
Oh yeah, hey, listen, we got spoiled with those guys. Those two big guys we had in the Super Bowl runs. Those guys were big.
Yeah, Hynoski and Hedgecock.
Hedgecock, right?
Oh yeah, yep. All right, well we can move on to the Mark. We'll get the next guy, CJ West out of Indiana. I did watch this guy play. Phenomenal player, and he followed over the coach that went there to Indiana from JMU, I believe.
He brought a lot of guys with him.
Yeah, he brought virtually everybody. But if you watch this dude's technique, it was flawless.
So let me ask you this question: where do you think he projects to play along the D tackle line, the D line there?
Well, like between the gaps, I actually have no clue.
Yeah, you think he's more of a nose tackle, or you think that's what I was wondering. What you think? Given what you saw?
No, I didn't think he was a nose tackle. I thought at 315 that he was a little bit thinner for that.
Okay. So he's definitely a good run defender. Again, good lateral movement, a lot of good motor. He's kind of relentless in that way, but he's mostly A gap and B gap. Definitely not a pass rush kind of guy. You're not looking for pass rush there. Sure. 1 sack, 5 hits, 19 hurries. So definitely limited on his pass rushing skill sets. But I kind of see him, definitely not pass rush for that. So much more of I don't want to say nose tackle, but in that range of it. Yeah.
I mean, if he is a nose tackle, though, that's where he's going to be best suited. And that's the other thing with these D tackles too, right? Like if we're talking nose tackle, they're out of the ranks. Like it's over.
Yes, absolutely. So you still have to have some sort of mask and body, to be a nose tackle, right? So so if he beefs up, maybe that's good for him. I don't know, but he might just play next to the nose tackle, So
sure.
It might be.
All right. Last but not least, for at least our we got the honorable mentions we'll get to, but Cam Horsley out of Boston College. What do you got, Truth?
Yeah, a big kid, 6'6", 320 plus. Like sometimes Marks was joking about these guys' weights, they fluctuate. So right now, that's what I show on most of the scouting reports. Another guy who had a responsibility on 2-gap, and he got double teamed a lot, but did a good job. Showed a lot of strength, has good mobility for his size, good leverage, strong hands, point of attack, and he is easily his best attribute is run defender. He's not going to be a pass rusher, but he can collapse the pocket and be a good, I would say, rotational lineman for the Giants if he was a Giant or for any NFL team. So I got him projected going in round 6.
Okay, round 6. We actually reached round 6, sir? Okay.
I was going to say, yeah, I didn't think he would go that low. I thought he would kind of go like around the 4th round.
You got him at 4?
I thought so. I think
Okay.
virtually everything we talked about is going top 4.
I think he's going to go before that, too. I do.
Okay, we're gonna guys. Let's mark
This is
this
what it's
down.
all about. We're fighting truth back on this one,
Let's
damn it.
mark this down. 1 hour and 59 minutes. We're gonna play this back after the draft.
Yes, we'll play it back after the draft.
Okay, I want to hear Mark's honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I know he said he has a couple of them.
Who are you
Okay.
high on, Mark?
Sure. Okay, Shamar Turner, Texas A&M.
Okay,
6'4". Yeah.
we
6'4".
talked about him though, didn't we?
Yeah,
Did
I think they
As an edge.
didn't they have him more as an end or no? They have him as
Shamar Turner?
He went back and forth. He did go back and forth like that. That has made the cause the trouble here, if you will.
Okay,
I
I
know
kind of
there's
have
Shamar
him as
Stewart.
that.
There's
Yeah.
Shamar Stewart.
Not Stewart. I'm talking Turner. Shamar
Yeah, I
Turner.
know. I know. I
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah,
You think he's more of an edge? You think so?
I don't know if I want to say edge. I want to say end. You know,
I mean, he's very versatile. So I'd
Yeah.
have him there.
I
I
think
mean,
he'll line up
he's kind of like played every position
Yeah.
along there, and So
It does cause confusion. There is a Shamar Turner and a Shamar Stewart at Texas
Shamar
A&M.
Stewart's going to go round 1. That's for
Yes.
done.
yeah, most likely. Even
Who else you got? Mark?
I've got what's his name? Aeneas Peoples. That's his name. That's how you pronounce it, right?
What school?
Virginia Tech.
Oh, hold up. I know who you're talking about.
Aeneas, yeah. Peoples, yeah. 6'1".
Yeah.
Another. This is like another versatile guy, more 3 technique kind of guy. Quick. But I mean, he's more like a rotational guy, in my opinion. You're not talking about someone who's going to be starting, but I mean, he's pretty versatile. So that's why I kind of like him. He had 3 sacks, 3 hits, 31 hurries. But he played B gap, A gap, tackle, kind of played, kind of all over, and I liked him for that. And I got one more for it. What's his name? How do you pronounce that? Jamari Caldwell, Oregon. Right, 6'1", 340. So stout, but good mass right there. But he's quick. Nose tackle kind of guy. Again, another rotational piece. I mean, you need that to spell your top nose guy. So he's a later round kind of guy. But I do think that he's someone who will be drafted. I don't think he's going to be undrafted. So he's not a pass rusher, B gap, A gap kind of guy. And those are my 3 honorable mentions.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, we're going to see. I'd like to know, this ends up being like which position is going to have the most players drafted. Which one is it going to be? And this is going to be interesting, this one, the defensive tackles. I'm curious to see how they do.
Well, what do you got, Truth? Because we got to go to your honorable mentions. At least plow through them.
Well, I'll just give their names. I'm not going to give a quick bio about them. There's a couple of kids I like. I like the kid out of Georgia Tech, Zeke Biggers, big kid, 6'6", 321. I like the kid out of Florida, Cam Jackson, 6'6", 328, good size. Really played on the team, or wasn't a lot of talent around him on defensive line, so he was like the only one. So he was being double teamed a lot. The other kid I like, a little undersized, if you call it that, 6'3", 285, Tunker Hemingway out of South Carolina, played along Sanders on that really talented South Carolina team that did well this year. So there's a few guys out there, like you said, about 20 players that we could see get drafted in this 7th-round. And don't forget the UDFA phase. You're going to see a lot of them get picked there too.
Yeah, for sure. I see in the chat, guys are asking for a 3 technique guy. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I think there are lots of options here. There are lots of options here. I don't think you're going to have a problem finding a 3 technique guy.
I think you're right. And he says, Giants team member out of Texas at Combine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They remember a lot of guys. Yep. He's a big boy. And like we talked about earlier, we got 3 picks in day 2, right? 34, 65, and 99. So, it's a good possibility a defensive tackle can go one of those picks.
Excellent. Yeah, I would think so. I would think that's you said you put money on it. I'm not a betting guy, but if I was a betting guy, I would put money on it too.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, guys, we are at the top of the hour. So to everybody who tuned in, we had a good viewership tonight. So thank you all for hopping in. Mark, thanks for coming on, man. As always, we'll have you back for the draft show. I would
Thanks
assume.
for having me. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I would like to think so. It'd be good to be present when the Giants draft. Yeah.
As it always is. I will be at the draft again, so I will not be on the show.
And I'll let you know that the first night of the draft happens to be my birthday.
Oh,
okay.
Then you got to be on the first night then. You got to be able to tell Craig.
You have to talk to King Rush, yeah.
You got to talk to him. You should be our first host for that
100%.
first round pick.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
All right, guys. Well, Truth, as always, thank you. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Okay. Take care. Yeah.